Before you listen to today's Neville Goddard podcast, brought to you by Mr. 2020 and friends, I want you to stop and imagine something right now. I want you to stop right now and imagine having had gotten gold, real gold. I really want you to feel what you would feel. I want you to experience what you experience if this was the podcast that changed your life forever. Dive in once you do that. See ya. All right, I can't visualize. I can't imagine. I've never had any wins. God, this is really good because we got a post in the LOA by Neville Goddard group, and I believe it's by Douglas. If I didn't get that right, I'm sorry, my friend. Let's dive in. Because your post is part of a common situation. By the way, you know that I'm not your mother, right? You know the difference between my voice and your mom's. And you know the difference between milk and water without having to taste it. If you see a glass of milk and you see a glass of water, you know they both taste differently. There's a memory in there. Neville Goddard taught memory is imagination. So one of the things that we bring up in revision, and I strongly suggest everyone get revisiontothemax.com. It's $7 today. Revisiontothemax.com. Is that I want you to just, I did this with a friend one day. Comes here and says they can't imagine, they can't revise. And I said, right, let's go have some fun. So we got two of those camping chairs, went up and sat at the top of the driveway. And every car that went by, I'd holler out a color. So when a blue Toyota goes by, I say red, which means I want you to imagine that car was red. And when a silver truck comes along, I say black, which means imagine that truck is black. When off in the distance we see a big white van coming, I say look at that van and see it as blue. While you see it as blue. And I just want you to notice while I'm talking about this, I mean, you could see a bicycle go by and have a woman on it, and you could turn that into a bicycle with a panda bear on it. And I bet you're seeing some of this without seeing some of this. Now, you might have some inner commentary distracting you, like, what the fuck is the point of all this? Why is he telling me to do this stuff? It's stupid. It has nothing to do with my imagining. A lot of us have a lot of itty-bitty shitty committee inside. And that itty-bitty shitty committee just is, it's crap in your coffee cup. At the very least, it's a distraction. At the very most, it just deafens you to the sound of my voice. And you know I'm not your mother, because you remember what mom's voice sounds like. Meanwhile, memory is imagination. And I want you to notice something, and a lot of people miss this. Neville Goddard said to imagine what implies your wish has been fulfilled. Imagine what you would experience naturally if your wish were already true. Let that sink in, because we play with these little exercises. These are just like the exercises that Ed gave Neville and Neville gave to some of his people. They're innocent. You see, I don't feel it real to make anything happen. I feel it real to innocently experience something. I experienced pizza to the point where I couldn't help but get pizza yesterday. I experienced getting pizza yesterday promptly to the point where they made it and I was in and out in 5 minutes or less. No traffic. I've talked about this before. But here's the thing. You really got to just play a lot. Especially if you feel or think that you're not imaginative or you don't have much imagination. Dr. Brian, I believe, brought up aphantasia, which is a fancy word for saying unable to see in imagination. There's an article out there that he referenced, and I believe Douglas, you found that goes into that about the artist that is still an amazing artist, even though she has that or he has that. I didn't look at the article; I didn't have time yet. But here's the cool thing: there are no excuses. For you to listen to the podcast, you would imagine something. You'd imagine, well, if you imagine getting gold from it and it making a difference, it will have. If you imagine listening and just, okay, that's just more shit for me to think about, that's what you'll get from the podcast. We've got a video. It's called the Guaranteed Win video. I'll try to share it on your post if I remember. If not, somebody else post it up there or remind me to. In the Guaranteed Win method, we mention before you do your Dream-Driven Day or your Manifesting Mastery course lesson or listen to the podcast, I want you to do a session. I want you to feel what you would feel if you got gold from today's lesson, from today's podcast. Before you listen, I want you to feel what you would feel. I want you to experience what you would experience if you had gotten gold. Because here's the thing, you're imagining before you listen to a podcast, before you do a lesson, before you do your MM lesson, you're imagining either having had gotten gold or, yeah, that was all right, that's pretty good. It confuses me a little bit. That's what some people imagine. Yeah, that was pretty good. It confuses me a little bit. And that's what they get. I'm going to give one more suggestion, and I don't know if you have this or not. Joseph Goddard to the max. I want you to just play with feelings. Feel what you would feel. See, in Joseph Goddard to the max, I'll give you the short version. If you want the complete version, you got to get the pack because I'm not going to re-record it all right here, right now. But here's the short version. Imagine specific events that you know you will have today already having gone your way. So I've imagined up a super yummy lunch. I did that yesterday to the point where when I got out of bed, I didn't know if it was pizza or Kentucky Fried Chicken. And Victoria was going out of town, so I just didn't feel like cooking. So I didn't know if it was pizza or Kentucky Fried Chicken. And I'm okay with that. Because I don't know if it's pizza or Kentucky Fried Chicken. You hear how worked up I am. But what I nail was what implies lunch was great. Lunch is a specific event of my day that I am guaranteed to encounter. It's either going to be good, bad, or indifferent. And so I imagine, yum. And I got, seriously, probably the best pizza I've gotten since I've been to Australia. No shit. And I got it in 5 minutes, and there was no traffic. Go figure. So I'd like all those wins because I imagined that before I got out of bed in the morning. Other things that I do every day is I imagine your feedbacks. I imagine your emails. 20, that was a great podcast. I appreciate that. 20, I just got the Joseph Goddard to the max. I appreciate that. This is what I imagine up every day because I get emails every day. Might as well imagine some of them are sales. I get emails every day. I might as well imagine some of them are people happy with what I do. So I nail those things before I get out of bed in the morning. That's part of my Joseph Goddard to the max practice. A few other Joseph Goddard to the max wins. I imagine having had made a great podcast. And your email spoke to me this morning. So this gets to become a great podcast and I will hear about it. Some people will buy Joseph Goddard to the max because of it. Some won't. That's fine. But I imagine that feeling of accomplished and satisfied. I imagine getting the emails where people say, I heard the birds this morning. I love when you do the podcasts. And I can hear the birds in the morning. You see, I love this shit. Meanwhile, the big thing is to play. The bigger thing is to notice any temptation that you have to deny that your divinity, to deny the truth about you. Because at the end of the day, let's talk attitude for a little bit. Ready? Your desires are divine in origin. You came here to experience them before you experience them. What you are is the spark behind the eyes, and the spark behind the eyes gets to experience your wishes just as easy as red, white, blue, when those cars go down the road. Because the more you play with something like Joseph Goddard, and this is one of the traps, A lot of people get involved in just someday manifesting. They've got a few big wins they want that will change everything. And I want you to start changing specific things every day, so you have specific wins every day. And I know, this is where somebody says, well, those are easy, those are small, those would have happened anyway. I know people that have shit food for lunch with people they hate, because that's what they imagine. Because they don't imagine, and I imagine it Victoria's Yum. And unless she's out on special assignment, which she is this weekend, I eat lunch with the woman I love every single day. Because that Joseph Goddard bit, one more. You see, if I'm happily married, in my book, that includes eating lunch with my wife every day that she's here, having yummy food and delicious conversation. That's the yum. If you got gold today, my suggestion is Joseph Goddard to the max, because I want you to have daily wins, and I want you to explore daily wins. Because there's someday manifesting, which is what a lot of people are teaching and what most people are doing, and they're having someday results. And that can also lead to frustration, because someday often isn't today. I want you to have everyday wins, and that's why we put together Joseph Goddard to the max, because Neville's dad had daily wins. Neville's family built an empire that spanned the islands. Goddard Enterprises went from being a little store on a side street to an empire that flowed from one nation to the next, starting one island at a time. That's Joseph Goddard to the max. Have a lovely day. My name is Mr. 2020, and I appreciate you posting, because this is going to give to a lot of people. See ya.